So again, welcome. My name is Victor Otieno. I'm the Managing Director of Viffa Consult, which is an SME and startup research think tank. Our role basically is to be able to conduct research focusing on startups and SME with the aim of informing policy using evidence, as well as using the research to be able to inform programs that different ESOs or entrepreneurship support organizations use to be able to tailor and ensure that the programs are resonate with SMEs. So we are doing a two-part series on intellectual property, focusing on agro-based entrepreneurs, as well as SMEs and entrepreneurs who have an intersection with copyrights. So today we are very much privileged to have KEPHIS to join us this morning, which is the Kenya Plant Health Inspectorate Services, a government agencies that focuses on plant health. And I think Gentrix is going to expound around the same. So the session is for our esteemed guest, Gentrix Juma, who is a principal plant examiner at KEPHIS with over 20 years of experience providing agricultural stakeholders with regulatory services. So we'll start a brief presentation by Gentrix about KEPHIS and where she sees intersections happening on IP from an agri perspective. Then possibly we can just be able to have one or two questions, which a lot of you are able to share beforehand. Then probably we can just be able to close out based with a few recommendations on how possibly we are going to be working or collaborating between or enhancing the collaboration between KEPHIS with entrepreneurs. So without further much ado, I would like to introduce to just take us to the next session. Karibu, Jen.
Thank you so much for inviting KEPHIS to have an interaction on the role of KEPHIS when it comes to intellectual property rights and also on the wider mandate. I request that I can be able to share my presentation. So after I have gone through my presentation, then we can have an interaction of issues, maybe that you needed some highlights that I have not highlighted. Or if in case there is any question, I can be able to answer.
That's very much in order. Proceed.
Can you be able to see my presentation?
Not at the moment.
Not at the moment. Wow. Okay.
You can share either on.
No, you have not given me the rights.
Let's see. Let me make you host and see. Try again. I've made you to be the host.
Can you be able to see now?
Yeah, you can see.
Okay. Okay, I'll be able to go through the presentation. My name is Gentrix Juma. I work for Kenya Plant Health Inspectorate Service as a principal plant examiner, coordinating issues of plant variety protection and plant variety testing and release. My presentation will entail, I will have a short introduction on wider mandate of KEPHIS and who is KEPHIS. Then I will go to intellectual property rights. Then I will highlight on the policy and legislative background supporting plant variety protection in Kenya. Then the status of plant variety protection in Kenya. Then the role of KEPHIS in promoting innovation and trade. Kenya economy and the livelihood, like most of African states, is heavily dependent on agriculture, which contributes approximately 33% to Kenya's gross domestic product. Agriculture employs almost 40% of the population of Kenya, which 70% is based in rural population. Seed of the right variety is critical to enhancing food security and income generation through increased farm productivity. The need for food security and income generation has seen the development of superior varieties with the required attributes to ensure that the Kenya population is able to have food on the table and also is able to have income generated from increased production. I'll be able to give a short brief on who's KEPHIS. KEPHIS is a state corporation under Ministry of Agriculture and has a mandate to offer regulatory services. KEPHIS was established under a legal notice under the State Corporation Act in October 1996. So KEPHIS has been operational since 1997. Currently, KEPHIS is operating under KEPHIS Plant Health Inspectorate Service Act number 54 of 2012. When it comes to intellectual property rights, KEPHIS has mandate on plant variety protection, and it administers all the innovation under plant variety protection, which I think today what we are going to highlight on to see what KEPHIS has done to ensure that the plant variety protection serves all the population, serves the youth, serves the women, also serves also the men, so that all along the chain or along all the KEPHIS mandate, all the important gender is taken care of. Now, KEPHIS has a mission to ensure excellence in plant health and quality assurance in agriculture, with a mission to assure plant health, quality of agriculture inputs and produce towards a food secure nation and safe trade. Our core value is customer focus, professionalism, integrity. Now, what is the wider mandate of KEPHIS? KEPHIS administer and enforce sanitary and phytosanitary measures to ensure that all the produce that we receive in Kenya, they are free from pests and diseases, so that we can be able to protect our agriculture, and also we can be able to facilitate trade, and also ensure that we comply to all phytosanitary measures to ensure that the produce that we produce in Kenya meet the Kenyan standard and also the international standard for the purposes of plant health and also for the purposes of trade. Now, when it comes to the second mandate of KEPHIS, that is seed certification ensures that the farmers get quality seed for the purposes of production. Another mandate that KEPHIS undertake is plant variety protection. Plant variety protection ensures that there is a legal framework that ensures that when the owner of the material comes up with an innovation of a variety the variety is protected for the purposes of exploitation and commercialization. We also offer analytical services where we ensure that the inputs that the farmers are using, like water for irrigation, fertilizer, chemicals, they meet the required standards. Also, we are involved in standard setting and harmonization of standard regionally and international, among other mandates. This is very important because for us to be able to trade, it means that you have to have our harmonized way of ensuring that we meet the standard so that the traders at any particular level, they can be able to trade either in Kenya or outside Kenya comfortably. Now, KEPHIS as an institution, it is based all over the country. We have in exit and entry points, we have our offices just to ensure that any planting material that comes in our country and leaves our country meets the required standard. And also we have an office in JKIA, Jomo Kenyatta International Airport, and also at Mombasa International Airport, just to ensure that any material that leaves through the airport meets the required standards, and also for the purposes of protecting our agriculture and facilitating trade. We also have the regional offices. From Mombasa, we have our regional offices. We have in Nakuru County, we have Embu, we have Naivasha, we have Kisumu, we have also in Kitale. But our head office, it is based in Nairobi, that is Karen. Why do we have the regional office across? So that the farmers and any other traders and any other stakeholders, they can be able to access our offices comfortably for any services that they need, so that we can be able to serve our population. Now, today I want to give a highlight on what is intellectual property rights and what is the role when it comes to KEPHIS mandate to ensure that intellectual property rights is able to be used to facilitate trade, to facilitate innovation, so that at the end of the day, we can be able to use intellectual property rights for the purposes of ensuring that we increase our production and also increase our trade. Now, intellectual property rights, it's a right that is derived from intellectual activities which can be used in the industry and also in artistic fields. The type of properties that result from creation of minds, that is mind intellect. So it means that intellectual property rights is the creation of minds. Somebody will look at a problem, then they come up with their solution. So when they come up with that solution, there is what intellectual property law ensure that after you have come up with that solution, you can be able to commercialize that solution. So intellectual property rights law is in place so that you can be able to reward, safeguard the creators and producer of intellectual property. The intellectual property law ensure that the rights are granted for time-limited rights and also to control the use of the product. Under Kenya, intellectual property rights is handled by a number of institutions, which I'll be able to highlight. But because each institution has a different mandate, today I'll be able to concentrate on KEPHIS mandate when it comes to intellectual property rights. But it's important for us to understand how wide intellectual property right is, so that we can be able to protect our innovation for the purposes of commercialization. Now, when it comes to plant variety protection, it is a mandate for KEPHIS, that is Kenya Plant Inspectorate Service, that ensures that any innovation, which is the varieties that are protected, We have Kenya Industrial Property Institute, KEPHIS. It undertakes mandate of intellectual property rights in patent, utility models, industrial designs, and trademarks. We have a Kenya Copyright Board, that is, it gives intellectual property rights in copyrights and related rights. Then also we have a counterfeit authority that ensures enforcement of intellectual property rights. We have Industrial Property Tribunal that handles the disputes in relation to patents, utility models, and industrial designs. We have Seeds and Plant Tribunal, who determines any disputes arising from plant variety protection. And last but not least, we have the courts that handles any intellectual property rights disputes across all the intellectual property rights. So that is, in a nutshell, the institution that we have in Kenya that deals with the intellectual property rights. I'm sure in subsequent series, they'll be able to highlight their roles. Now, when it comes to intellectual property rights for varieties, that is plant variety protection. Plant variety protection is the same as plant breeders' rights. So you'll hear the term being used interchangeably, but it means the same thing. Or these are the rights granted by the state to protect the proprietary rights breeder with regard to breeding of new plant varieties, and give the holders exclusive rights to produce for sale and to propagate propagation of the material. For any intellectual property rights, we always have an exemptions. So this one is a moral right, whereby now the user of intellectual property rights, the consumer, they can also be able to have an exemption. Under intellectual property rights for plant breeders, we have an exemption whereby the breeders can, the farmers can be able to use protected varieties on a limited scale, which is well-defined. And also when it comes to plant breeders' rights, you can be able to transfer them, they're transferable. Why do we have plant variety protection? Plant variety protection is very important because when it comes to issue of coming up with an innovation, it is always it's costly and it takes time. So for us to be able to facilitate, the government to be able to facilitate and encourage the breeder or an innovator to come up with the new varieties, the plant variety system is in place to ensure that they can be able to recoup from the investment, to ensure that there is an increase in number of improved variety for the purposes of ensuring that the farmers are able to get the right varieties for the purposes of increased productivity. So what is the purpose of plant variety protection? This one ensures that we promote development of new variety of plants. I'll be able to highlight on the policy, because when it comes to policy framework, the policy framework is not static. It means that in case there is any review that is supposed to be done, which can be the users and the consumers can be able to arise on the policy and the legislative framework, or even the leaders, and request for review for the purposes of improvement. Now, Kenya Constitution, which is the supreme law for us, has taken care of intellectual property rights. Under Article 11.2, it said that the state shall promote the intellectual property rights of people of Kenya. And under Article 45, the state shall support, promote, and protect the intellectual property rights of people of Kenya. So intellectual property rights is a very important aspect that ensures that Kenya as a country is competitive when it comes to trade and ownership. Now, what are the main legal framework that govern plant variety protection? We have seed policy that gives direction, which currently we are we have the Seed Policy 2010, which is under review, just to take care of emerging issues. But for now, we are still operating under the Seed Policy 2010, which has given direction and has identified the need to promote plant variety development in Kenya, which encompasses plant variety testing, release, seed certification, and plant variety protection. And to ensure for us to be able to harmonize our laws with the international law that will be able to promote variety development and also facilitate international movement of seed. In response to these needs, the Seeds and Plant Variety Acts, which govern plant variety protection, was reviewed in 2012 to incorporate aspects of plant variety protection. Also, we have our Kenyan law, which we have the Seed and Plant Variety Act, which was reviewed in 2012. Also, Kenya as a country, we are a signatory to international treaties, especially for plant variety protection. We are a member of International Union for the Protection of New Variety of Plants, which is called UPOF, under the convention in 1991 convention, which provide for grants of plant variety protection for all genera and species. So it means that for any innovator that comes up with a variety, and when it comes to an innovator, we are talking about an innovator when it comes to plant variety protection, can be a farmer, can be a breeder, can be any natural person or a legal person, that is, it can be a company. So the scope of protection, it means that you can be able to protect all plant genera and species. Now, I have given a highlight on where we are now when it comes to plant variety protection. We have since the inception of Plant Variety Protection Office in 1997, we have received 1,959 applications, which out of that, 29% we have received from local, that is Kenyan applications, and foreign we have received 71%. So it means that we still have an opportunity for us as Kenyan to increase our innovation when it comes to coming up with variety, so that we can be able to increase our local portfolio when it comes to plant variety protection. But under the local applications that we have received for protection, in public institutions, covers 77%, then private institutions, it covers 23%. And out of this that you have received from local and foreign, for food crops, it covers 36%. Then for cash crops, it covers 64%. Now, this is a reflection of how we are trading when it comes to intellectual property rights of plant variety protection. Because intellectual property rights is an asset. So we can be able to use your asset for commercial value. So it is important for us to look at the status of what we have and be able to see the intervention that we can be able to do as a country, as stakeholders, to ensure that we increase our portfolio when it comes to plant variety protection, especially for local breeding. Now, when it comes to enforcement of plant variety protection, the enforcement of the rights is by the owner of the rights, which will seek the redress in the court of law. And also we have the Seeds and Plant Variety Tribunal to determine any dispute arising from plant variety protection. KEPHIS, being the signatory authority for phytosanitary seed certification matters, has added the advantage of detecting any cases of infringement and has helped in arbitration of some of the cases. Now, what is the role of KEPHIS when it comes to promoting innovation and trade? Now, Kenya as a country, especially under agriculture, there are a number of subsectors that Kenya is doing very well, and have highlighted some of those subsectors. And I'll be able to explain how the plant variety protection has played a role. When it comes to floriculture industry, KEPHIS as an institution, it has mandated to ensure that the floriculture industry have a market. And when we look at the volume that was exported in the 2018, we're able, it is valued at the USD 861.6 million. And by 2020, we have received USD 101.1 billion. So it means that this floriculture industry is growing. And I'm sure in 2024, the floriculture industry has also grown. We have seen trends of increase in each year. But now, what is the factors that has promoted this industry? One of the factors that has promoted this industry, it is ensuring that Kenya meets the standard for export. So as a country, through phytosanitary services, we have ensured that you can be able to export, we can be able to maintain our market. So that is one of the mandate KEPHIS has ensured that the country is able to maintain the market, but ensuring that we meet the standard. And for any business person to be able to come and trade in Kenya, the trading environment, it has to be a good trading environment. And one of the role that KEPHIS has played, because most of these floriculture varieties that we export are protected. So Kenya has ensured that we have a system in place whereby when the owner of the varieties, which mostly there are foreigners that export these varieties. So what we have ensured that when they bring in the material for the purposes of production, because Kenya has a good environment for production of flowers. So when they bring in the material, one of the aspects they always look for, if at all we have a system in place so that it can be able to protect the innovation. So we have plant variety protection has set that ground to ensure that the varieties they bring in, they are protected. And also, apart from them gaining from protection, we have a number of the local breeders who are also producing in Kenya. They own the material in Kenya. The material have been protected in Kenya. And most of them, they're small-scale farmers, especially in summer flowers. They produce the flowers and they can be able to export. So KEPHIS has facilitated that to ensure that they can be able to produce, they can be able to meet the required standard, and also they can be able to export. And also, the floriculture industry has created employment. It is estimated that about 500,000 people have been employed in floriculture industry. And out of that, the people who have the livelihood of 2 million people have indirectly been relying on the floriculture industry. This is very important for us as a country because the floriculture industry employ people across all the scale, from the people who ensure that production takes place to managers, and also people who have grown, they have learned skills from the industry, and they have started their own industry, and they're moving on very well. So I think that is very important for us to be able to highlight that. And then also the role that KEPHIS has played when it comes to plant variety protection. The fact that the breeders can be able to breed varieties, and have already explained who's a breeder. A breeder can be a farmer. We have ensured that we have food security. So the varieties that have been released, they have been able to meet our challenges, especially when it comes to the issue of climate change. So we have been able to release varieties that the farmers can be able to use across all the ecological zone to ensure that we increase production. As much as we are having challenges in climate change, but you can be able to avert that by coming up with the varieties that can be able to be produced with a limited rains. Also, because of the diseases, the subsector has come up with the varieties that can be able to tolerate diseases, especially for maize lethal necrosis disease. It has been a menace in Kenya, but the breeders with other stakeholders have ensured that they will come up with a variety that we can be able, as much as we have the disease, we can be able to produce seed that can be able to ensure that the farmer can increase their productivity when it comes to issues of diseases. This is just an example, but there are a range of varieties that you have been able to test, you have been able to release, you have been able to protect, just to ensure that the farmers are able to choose from a wider range, depending on their need. Now, when it comes to another subsector of the distribution of seed, now when it comes to the distribution of the seed is a chain, which start from the owner of the material, that the seed merchants that handle seed. And when we look at our portfolio of the seed merchants, we have small scale seed merchants, whereby even you have the CBOs that produce, they process, and they sell seed. We have individuals who owns the seed companies. They produce seed and they sell. Of course, we have government institutions, which are the seed companies. Also, they produce and sell seed. We have international institutions that also sell seed. So when we look at the portfolio of seed distribution, the portfolio has allowed expansion so that everybody has a niche where they can be able to operate in. And KEPHIS has ensured that if at all there's anybody that comes on board, we can be able to provide the information and support they require, just to ensure that they meet the standard, and also they can be able to operate among the chain. Also, we have the seed handlers, which we call the seed stockists. These ones that the retail, after the seed has been processed, they always do the distribution of seed to ensure that the seed reaches the farmer at their counties, also at the sub-counties, and even at their local market. And KEPHIS has ensured that for us to be able to facilitate these small traders, we have provided a range of the cost. The person who handles seed at the large volume, they don't pay the same amount of money when it comes to licensing as the person who handles seeds at the lower level. So just to ensure that we take care of everybody who wants to trade in seed. The only important issue that we look at is the quality. We ensure that if you are handling seed at the lower level with small volume and the large volume, the only thing that we look at to ensure that the farmer gets quality is to ensure that all the required quality standard is adhered to. But now when it comes to cost of licensing, that one has been adjusted to take care of the small traders. Now, when it comes to international trade, Kenya as a country has provided environment whereby after the seed, we have traded in seed locally. Any surplus seed, we can be able to export, and we have been able to export seed in South Africa, in Tanzania, in Zambia, and Zimbabwe. As we export flowers, as we export vegetables, as we export fresh produce, we are also exporting seed just to ensure that we create a wider portfolio when it comes to trade. Now, when it comes to coming up with varieties, there are a number of varieties that the farmers at the farm levels, they have been able to come up with the varieties and they have been able to protect. I have highlighted a few here. We have a number we have come up with, it's called the summer flowers. Most of the flowers that we're exporting, or most of them that are being owned by small-scale farmers. And also we have a farmer that have come up with the apple variety, which is doing very well. Also we have the milkweed and the bird of paradise varieties. But what I want to encourage the farmers is, most of the time the farmers are able to see something that they can be able to commercialize when it comes to varieties, especially for the summer flowers. Summer flowers, when you look at them, it's just the weeds that we have in Kenya. So I'll be able to encourage the farmers that as they work with the varieties, they are free to be able to commercialize those varieties. The only thing they need is for them to come to KEPHIS, and we shall be able to advise them accordingly so that they can be able to commercialize what they have. Now, I'll be able to conclude with highlighting what are the main activities that KEPHIS has done to promote the startups when it comes to the micro and small enterprise ventures. KEPHIS has ensured that when it comes to intellectual property rights, there is capacity building, so that when the startup comes up with a variety, we can be able to train them, we can be able to synthesize them, what are the requirements, and in case they need any financial assistance, we can be able to advise them. Because when it comes to intellectual property rights, after you have come up with your variety, you are allowed to license. So when it comes to a startup, let's assume a farmer or any smallholder farmer or a trader, they have come up with a variety or an innovation in any area of intellectual property rights. It is always important for them to visit any intellectual property office so that they can be able to be advised accordingly. And when it comes to intellectual property rights, it has provided for licensing. What does that mean? It means that if I come up with a variety, I cannot be able to commercialize myself. What I can be able to do, I can be able to have a contract with either a well-established seed merchant, and we have an agreement that in every sale they make, I'll be able to be given royalties. So that is an avenue that somebody can be able to use. And then another avenue that they can be able to use, they can be able to incorporate also the research institution, the public research institution, so that they can be able to work together and they can be able now to ensure that they can be able to commercialize their innovation, that is when it comes to variety. Now, when it comes to licensing, we always advise the startups that is always important for them to seek the legal advice, just to ensure that when they're doing licensing, they ensure that the licensing and the agreement will work for them to be able to protect the innovation. And there's some aspect of intellectual property rights, which we may not discuss today, of the whole processes, but what I can be able to advise any person who is interested in knowing a deeper processes when it comes to plant variety protection, they can be able to reach KEPHIS, then we shall be able to go through, because the training is always free. They can be able to work in the office and we can be able to discuss with them. They can be able to call and we can be able to highlight the processes. And also we have trainings that we train. Each year we have approximately 3 trainings, which we are always basing across the country, just to ensure that people know the importance of intellectual property rights and also the KEPHIS mandate. When it comes to export and imports of either seed or agriculture produce, KEPHIS has a training, especially for phytosanitary for export. Every Monday, it is if at all you are based in Nairobi, we just walk in the office, Jomo Kenyatta International Airport, our office, or a current office, then you can be able to be advised accordingly. Now, when it comes to seed, if you want to trade in seed, you can walk in any regional office that are highlighted, then you can be able to be given the information that you require. Also, under the promotion of startups, KEPHIS has also ensured that the processes of registration has been simplified and it is online. All KEPHIS processes that online. So you don't need to come to KEPHIS office physically unless you need to be given some information. You only need to go to KEPHIS website, you log in, and you choose any processes that you want to register in. And in case you have any issue, you can always call us, then we can be able to assist you. But to have made it very easy for any person to be able to make an application for any KEPHIS processes, including intellectual property rights on the system. So you just need to create an account, then you can be able to proceed. Now, KEPHIS has played a major role in expanding market opportunities for micro and small enterprises by creating awareness, because one of the bottlenecks that you always have is for the small enterprise to understand the standards, especially if at all somebody wants to export is on the international market. So we have been able to be holding trainings for the small enterprises, so that some of the issues that they hire, especially when you want to export, when you want to fill an application, when you want to fill an application, most of the time the processes is self-explanatory. So we always do the training. Hello, are you still on?
Yes, proceed.
Sorry. So what I was highlighting is, one of the importance of this training is, most of the time we have realized that the micro enterprise, some of them, they hire services they can be able to do by their own. So we always advise them, before you hire services, come and look if at all you can be able to do them, especially when it comes to applications. Some of those processes that are very simple, you can be able to do. And now when it comes to production for the purposes of export, we have tailor-made trainings so that you can be able to train micro enterprise at their own level, so that they can be able to understand and they can be able to operate effectively when it comes to export. So that is what I wanted to highlight, and I'll be able to end there. And in case there is any clarification, or in case there is any question that you need me to highlight, I'll be in position to do that. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Gentrix, for that very comprehensive presentation of the role of KEPHIS and the importance of agriculture. Of course, we cannot be able to address all the issues in one go in terms of one session. What we did is we were able to collect questions from the wider public when we put out the poster. And basically I have basically two broad questions. Of course, we know and understand the role of agriculture in terms of supporting socioeconomic development in Kenya. And I think, as you highlighted in your presentation, over almost aggregate in terms of over 40% of Kenya's GDP is supported by agriculture. We know that CFTA is also proposing for member states in Africa to be able to add value to different natural resources that are there in the different countries. And in Kenya, agriculture is a major one. We know that agriculture is still punching below its weight in terms of being able to harness the full value of the sector towards supporting GDP as well as employment. It's also interesting to note that I think we've had around 1959 applications, with 29% of those applications in IP being local, which presents an opportunity. It's a challenge, but also presents an opportunity. And I think which leads me to the first question in terms of, is there an ecosystem that KEPHIS is able to be able to create, to be able to ensure that more young people, more SMEs, more entrepreneurs are able to learn and play a bigger role in terms of creating more plant varieties and creating intellectual property within the agricultural value chain. And what we see as a trend across government is establishment of incubation hubs, where entrepreneurs can come, they can be able to learn, or you can be able to link innovators with entrepreneurs so that they can be able to take some of these products to market. So that's the first question in terms of, is there an opportunity, if it's there in terms of incubation hubs based on what we've seen with other government agencies, and if not, then how would you propose that to work in terms of support from private sector working with KEPHIS? That's number one in terms of question. Number two is, you mentioned there are other different IP bodies. Is there a platform where all these IP bodies collaborate within themselves as well as collaborate with private sector? Because what we also see is also a disparity or a rift between the regulatory or policy agency with private sector. And the reason even why we propose to have this webinar is to be able to bridge that gap. So those are the two main questions that we have in terms of an ecosystem on an incubation program to support local entrepreneurs to join the agricultural value chain, at least from a seed and developing IP. And the second question is an opportunity to a platform between government agencies themselves and private sector to ensure that we are able to work synergetically so that it's not working in silos. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you for the question. I'll be able to highlight the first question on the incubation. If at all KEPHIS has a framework or has a platform whereby the startups or somebody who is interested in this subsector, they can be able to be assisted. It is really a wider chain. So depending on the entry point that the startup wants to enter this subsector, at every level, there is a mechanism that have been put in place, which of course there's always a room for improvement. When it comes to breeding that is coming up with an innovation, we have public research institutions, which most of the time they are open. So in case somebody has seen a variety or have come up with an innovation, and either they want technical assistance or they want a financial assistant, they can always be able to. They can be able also to request the public researchers so that they can be able to work together. Now, some of them I can be able to mention, we have universities, Nairobi University, we have Egerton University, we have Jomo Kenyatta University, we have Maseno University. That is just a few when it comes to universities. So let's assume somebody is at the learning institutions and they want to come up with varieties, or they have come up with the varieties. That is a starting point. And each university, they have internal intellectual property rights policy that will ensure that in case I come up with my variety, the university won't take over, but what will happen, we shall have an agreement and see how best we can be able to exploit this variety without either the university or the innovator of the variety being disadvantaged. So that is one of the entry points for those who are in any setup. It's not a much has to be a university, even it can be a middle college. There is always an intellectual property right policy that is always in place to ensure that we can be able to promote innovation at that level. Now, when it comes to the people who are already out, maybe we're already trading, we have, if at all you want to enter at the variety level, we have the research institution, we have CARO. We also have international body like CIMIT, ICRISAT. They always have projects that can be able to assist any entrepreneur who has a variety and they want to improve on it, or they want to do the protection. Of course, when it comes to the standard that are required to meet, KEPHIS always are in hand. You always work with them hand in hand so that you can be able to ensure that that variety can be able to be commercialized. And then now, after the variety has, we have the variety now has been released for the commercialization, then the licensing always comes in, whereby now you can be able to license it. Either you do it yourself, commercialization, but in case you are not able to do that, there is always the seed companies that you can always go to them, can have a contract so that they can be able to commercialize. But you can be able to recoup your investment through royalty payments. Now, that is at the level of variety. Now, let's assume that you want to do seed production at any level, either as processing, that is as a merchant, you want to do seed production at the level of production, or you want to do the selling part of it. So this one is always easy, an easy entry point, because I think the capital that you require is minimum. So this one, we always advise the person who's interested, depending on where they're based and depending on their interest. They can always approach KEPHIS, and KEPHIS can be able to advise them accordingly. But what has happened, we work together with the Ministry of Agriculture at the county level so that we have a number and a series of interaction, trainings, field days, just for us to be able to see how the public can be able to have the information that they require so that they can be able to pick what niche they can be able to operate in. Now, when it comes to export portfolio, the export portfolio, depending if you want to export seed, it means that you have to ensure that you know the standard that's required, and also you're supposed to know where you want to export seed to. When it comes to fresh produce, we work with other bodies to ensure that the person who wants to export, they can be able to know the standard that are required. So we work together with the HCD, Ministry of Agriculture, and also the associations that deal with flowers, the association that deals with fruits, just to advise the members of what is required. And also the financial aspect is always there. Most of the SMEs, I think they have platforms where they can be able to borrow finances, and they can be able now to come for the knowledge. And in case there is any need for us to be able to provide any written documents, we're always willing to provide. But if there's anything that they need, we are always available. But now the platform is wide because we also have the NGOs, we have the CBOs, we have the farmers group. They always come together so that they can be able to put their resources together and so that they can be able to do what they require. So the portfolio is it will range. It ranges from which entry the person wants to enter the business. I think that's what I can be able to highlight.
Okay, so fantastic.
For Nairobi County,
okay.
Yes. For Nairobi, yes, sorry.
No, I was saying fantastic. I think either in your past life or in your future, you qualify to be a very good lecturer in terms of in terms of detail. I'm just worried about time, and just maybe I just wanted to maybe we wrap it up at that particular juncture. I think this was an introduction so that at least we can start at a high level. I've been able to pick notes in terms of areas that we think maybe we would want to be able to expound and highlight, and possibly we can be able to have more engagement either every quarter or every so often, so that we can be able to now increase the interaction between KEPHIS, and especially for entrepreneurs who would want to enter into the agricultural value chain and they don't know how to. So I think these types of interaction and engagement is going to be a good platform for green young people who would want to enter into agriculture and they do not know the legal jargons. They want to just start. That's I think that's would be the aim of our continuing interaction. So because of time and also so that we respect your time as well as the participants who've come, I would want just maybe to close at that particular point by just saying a big thank you to Gentrix for making the time to be able to come teach and expound what IP is within the agricultural value chain. We really appreciate you making the time. And hopefully we can be able to take lessons and figure out or try to explore areas of which we can be able to further collaborate for the sake of our young SMEs, our young entrepreneurs. So thank you very much for making the time. We have recorded this particular session. We are going to upload it on our YouTube channel, probably so that other people who may have not been able to make it can be able to see, and possibly they can be able to give feedback. So asanteni sana and have a good day.